Even dead, Iron Man was pretty much the hero of Spider-Man Far From Home. So today we are going to discuss the various rumors and reports surrounding his future in the MCU. Some of the news outlets are pretty sure that Tony Stark will return back to the MCU in some form or the other. We will also talk about who will be the next Iron Man of the MCU and serve as the next face of the cinematic universe going forward. So let's break it down, Salve.
The whole world is asking who's going to be the next Iron Man. I don't know if that's me happy. I'm not Iron Man.
Tony sacrificed himself to save the universe in Avengers Endgame, and we considered that it was the last time we were seeing RDJ as Tony Stark in the MCU. But then Spider-Man Far From Home changed things forever. Even though Iron Man wasn't explicitly a part of it, his shadow and presence could be felt throughout the movie. Be it mysterious motivation or the AI edit, both were Tony Stark's own creation. And then let's not forget the fact that throughout the movie we see Peter Parker struggling with the idea that he has to step up to be the next Iron Man of the MCU. So Far From Home created some possibilities that we might not have seen the last of Tony in the MCU. And now it's pretty much confirmed that we will see him again in the upcoming Black Widow movie. Since Black Widow movie is itself a prequel, as the movie will focus mainly on the events between Civil War and Infinity War, the appearance of Tony makes sense. After all, after the events of Captain America Civil War, half of the Avengers, including Black Widow, Captain America and Scarlet Witch, were fugitives. And it was Tony who was actually heading the operations of official Team Avengers. And since government was trying to track down the rogue Avengers, the involvement of Tony only seems natural. But here's the catch. As of now, RDJ hasn't renewed his contract with Marvel Studios. So just like Far From Home, his appearance in the Black Widow movie might be just some recycled footage from Civil War or some of the earlier Iron Man movies. As one report points out that Marvel will use a deleted scene from the Civil War where Tony tells Black Widow to go into hiding. If that's true, then we might not see Tony Stark in his armor and it might just be a short cameo. But that said, even though he might not be physically present, we might continue to feel his presence through his various actions during that time, which ends up affecting Black Widow, just like what we saw in Spider-Man Far From Home. So even though Tony might not be back from the dead in the upcoming Black Widow movie, we will see him well and alive again in the upcoming Disney Plus What If series. This series is set to debut in 2021 and will have 23 episodes, 1 episode for every movie in the Infinity Saga. That is from Iron Man 1 to Spider-Man Far From Home. So we will see Tony in at least 9 of those 23 episodes. As apart from 3 Iron Man movies and 4 Avengers movie, Tony was also a part of Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming. It will be interesting to see what these what if scenarios will be for Tony in all of these various episodes. As of now, we know very little about this upcoming series, but what we do know is the what if series will feature some interesting possibilities, like what if Peggy Carter herself had taken the Super Soldier Serum instead of letting Steve Rogers. And we will see zombie version of Captain America in one of these episodes. But the most ridiculous what if that we will see is the possibility where Black Panther becomes the Star-Lord. But that said, this what if series is going to be animated and will be set in an alternate universe. So seeing Tony Stark in one of these episodes isn't exactly the same as seeing him return to the MCU on the big screen. And thus enters the multiverse. Other than the movie Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder will also likely foray into the multiverse, as the movie is likely to bring Loki back into the main MCU universe from the alternate universe where we saw him escape with the Space Stone in Avengers Endgame. So considering that the heroes will be hopping around the multiverse, it seems reasonable to consider that Marvel Studios will want to feature another cameo of its one of the most bankable stars of all time, Tony Stark. So yeah, don't be too surprised if we get to see RDJ's cameo as Tony Stark from another universe in one of these upcoming movies that are set to take us on a ride into the multiverse. But none of these possibilities really bring back Tony Stark as we would love to. The closest one that we have is his role as the AI assistant in the upcoming Ironheart series. From the comics, we know that Riri Williams takes on the mantle of Iron Man after Tony Stark goes into coma after fighting Captain Marvel during Civil War 2. Tony Stark has then backed up his consciousness in the cloud, and it is this AI version of Tony that guides the prodigy Riri Williams in creating her second Iron Man armor. And now we have reports from various sources that indeed we will see something similar in the MCU too, as we would find out that Tony has created an AI version of himself that somehow Riri manages to get access to. There even has been the suggestion that the Tony Stark hologram that we see towards the end of Avengers Endgame is not really a hologram, but it might be the AI version of Tony, considering it was able to look directly into Morgan Stark's eyes when Tony says "I love you 3000." And when we examine the scene closely, it seems that the hologram version of Tony Stark was well aware of his surroundings. So there is definitely a possibility that we might have seen the AI version of Tony in that endgame funeral scene. And the fact that Tony says that this time heist might actually lead to his death, it seems reasonable that Tony would have prepared for the worst and put things into motion to back up his mind as an AI version. And it would take some time until this AI version is ready to be fully functional, which is why we haven't seen it right away in Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home. But by the time Ironheart will be introduced in the MCU, it would already be few years since Endgame, and Tony's AI would be ready to be deployed. Now this definitely raises a question, why really gets that AI rather than Peter Parker, since Tony considered him to be worthy enough for Eddie and even considered him as the next potential leader of the Team Avengers. Then there's also the fact that Morgan Stark, Tony's daughter, herself might be the one who would be the next Ironheart rather than introducing the character of Riri Williams. If that turns out to be the case, then things would naturally fall into place, as Tony would have designed an AI such that when his daughter attains a certain age, she would have access to it. This would totally make sense, and it seems to be the best way to continue things. But even if she doesn't end up taking on the mantle of Ironheart, it might still be her who gets the first access to Tony's AI, and then she would end up giving that to Riri Williams. That too would make for a one hell of an emotional story of two friends. Let me know in the comments, do you prefer the first case where Morgan Stark becomes the new Ironheart, or the second one where she and Riri Williams are friends? But whatever it might turn out to be, one thing is sure, that MCU needs a new face post-Avengers Endgame. So who is going to be that new face? The movie Spider-Man Far From Home tried to project Peter Parker as the next Spider-Man, but then shortly after the movie's release, the disaster struck, as Sony and Disney decided to call it quits on a Spider-Man sharing deal. But thanks to Tom Holland himself, the deal is back, as we'll get a sequel to Spider-Man Far From Home, where we'll get to see what happens after that post-credit scene of Far From Home. How will Peter's world be affected now that the whole world knows that he is the Spider-Man who killed Mysterio and is responsible for the London attacks? As to how Spider-Man will come out of this mess, there has been some theories and rumors. It is being said that Peter will need a lawyer, considering he's in big trouble, and since he's being accused of murder and an act of terror. What's interesting about this rumor is that it is She-Hulk who will be Peter's lawyer, and it pretty much makes sense, since in comics, She-Hulk, who is a Bruce Banner's cousin, is also a criminal defense lawyer. And then there is the fact that Marvel has already planned out the She-Hulk series. So it is going to be interesting seeing She-Hulk in Spider-Man 3. What do you guys think about that? Anyways, after this movie, Spider-Man will also appear in one more Marvel movie, after which the current deal will be over. And it is being said that Kevin Feige is planning to write out the character of Spider-Man of the MCU with these two movies, after which Spider-Man will return to Sony's Spider-Verse. And there might no longer be a Spider-Man in the MCU. But that is a lot of a speculation, and it is still a few years away before we have to worry about that. But the one thing that we should take away from this is the fact that it would be a bit risky on Marvel's part to make Spider-Man the next phase of the MCU. So that raises the question of who is the best option here. Captain Marvel is the one that appears to be the top contender, but then again, her character has met with divided opinion amongst the fans. So she isn't the one behind whom the entire fan base would rally, and this is something that Marvel is well aware of. So I don't expect her to be the day-to-day face of the team, which brings me to the point that there might not exactly be the new face of the MCU for quite some time now. As Phase 4 unfolds, we'll start seeing the new Marvel Universe evolve, and it will take some years before things settle down and a new character takes on the mantle of Iron Man as the new face of the MCU. As in Phase 4, most of the series and movies are sequels of well-established characters. Only outliers are Shang-Chi and the She-Hulk series. We already discussed that She-Hulk would be appearing in Spider-Man 3, so it makes sense to give her her own series. And there have been some rumors that Captain Marvel might make an appearance in Shang-Chi movie, so that will help that movie garner some audience by including Carol Danvers, as the Captain Marvel solo movie made over $1 billion, and after her appearance in Endgame, almost everyone knows who she is. So other than most loyal fanbase of the Marvel Comics, very few people would be aware of Shang-Chi's character. Thus the inclusion of Captain Marvel will definitely broaden the audience interest. Let me know in the comments, who do you want to be the next face of the MCU? Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, or somebody else? With that, we'll bring this video to an end. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe for more upcoming content.